We've looked at what the new year holds here at home. Time for the global perspective. From Mark Phillips in London.
One thing at least used to be predictable in this world: crowds gathering around the globe to celebrate as the new year rolled in. In this pandemic year, in most places, the party was over before it began. And there was no immediate improvement in all the issues the world is facing just because the date has changed.
Is 2020 a year that you're going to be sad to see the end of?
Definitely not.
Madeleine Albright may have been Secretary of State 20 years ago when the world was a different place, and you would expect her to take a dim view of the U.S. posture in it over the past 4 years. But what about the next?
I definitely see it as a period of re-engagement. And I think that that's one of the major parts, because we have been AWOL for a while, and I have always believed that America's strength depends on how we operate with our partners and deal with the issues that are out there.
And everybody knows what the biggest issue out there is. Simply rejoining the World Health Organization, as President-elect Joe Biden has promised, will not end the pandemic. But it will, according to Albright, be a sign.
Because there is no way, no matter how powerful the United States is to be able to deal with those issues alone. So definitely, I think we need to re-engage with the World Health Organization.
But as it returns to an active role at the international table, at the WHO, at the G7, at NATO, the U.S. will find a less dependent, less trusting place.
So yes, the world has changed. We're in a far more fragmented world.
Karin von Hippel is the first American to run the prestigious Royal United Services Institute, the world's oldest security think tank in London.
China is a much more of a rising threat and competitor than it was 4 years ago. All these other countries, such as Russia and Iran, that were pretty much able to flex their muscles in many parts of the world with very little blowback. So it's a very different world.
But has it also taught, just speaking in terms of the Western allies, let's say, to be less dependent on American leadership internationally?
Yes, it's a good thing for those countries to build up their own resiliency and their own capability. It's a bad thing if America wants to try to lead again and they don't have anyone following.
Lead on rejoining the rearguard action being fought against climate change. Lead on confronting the disruptive influence of Vladimir Putin's Russia.
Putin has played a weak hand very well, and the kinds of things that he's been doing to undermine our democracy, to separate us from our friends and allies in Europe, to reassert Russian influence in the Middle East is something that is very troublesome.
The pandemic, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, the Middle East. Those are just the challenges we know about.
Is there the bandwidth to deal with all of these international issues of such importance?
Do we have the bandwidth? We have to have the bandwidth. There's always the thing that comes in over the transom that's the big surprise. And it's very hard, as somebody used to say, to predict the future. Yogi Berra, I think. And so I do think, by the way, it's always a mistake when I use some kind of a sports analogy.
What Yogi Berra said was, the future ain't what it used to be. And once again, he was right.